Welcome to the Real Connections bonus. I'm here with Sara Habbab. Sara Habbab is an artist, NFT artist, and creativity coach. She started a 365-day journey of creating one piece of art a day for a year. I've witnessed her journey and have seen her go from aspiring to the amazing artist she is now, selling her art at conventions. Her journals are now available on Amazon. After her 365 days of art, she now is on a 1,000 days of art journey. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Yeah, so I think it's so important in this module about talking about real connections and that every time you tweet, it's going to a real person with a beating heart and a soul, and just
Mm.
kind of like how we can impact people even in ways that are subtle or nuanced. And just this idea that when we're intentional, we bring more depth and warmth to the communities that we're a part of. So I think kind of like your journey, you specifically started on Clubhouse, and just this idea that you've kind of like met people like all throughout your journey that like now you have like some of your best friends or people you met on Clubhouse that you didn't even know they were strangers to you before you like got involved in that. And even like us, like we've hung out so many times like in person, and we collaborate all the time. And you're one of my best friends, and we met like through an online community. And I'd love to hear kind of like about your journey of on Clubhouse, going from just like hearing people's voices and having them be a stranger to some of your best friends.
Yeah, I love that. And it's not only Clubhouse, like you mentioned, like the whole when you mentioned the 365, I just remembered that that whole journey started with a connection with someone who's across the world, on the other side of the world, Shanty Town. We started this together, we ended it together, and we've never met a day in real life. So that's like how impactful could these connections be in someone's life. But going back to Clubhouse, when I downloaded Clubhouse, it was just to kind of like see what this big app is about. And I just wanted to have fun. And it was really no, like, it wasn't, there was a big intention behind it of like, I have to, a lot of people went intentionally to like create certain types of rooms and create certain types of kind of fast money making things, wherein I went and like let's see what's going on. Let's connect with artists. I saw the first thing I looked up is artists room, and there was some clubs and some rooms that were periodically happening, and it was just fun. It was the first time that I sat in a room with people who are seasoned in art, be it doing art for like 20 or 10 years or doing traditional digital like video, all kinds of different types of art, singers, all of it together, merging together in this one space. And it was so beautiful because it kind of, I had access to things that I didn't have access to before, and I had to talk to real people who have been on the journey that I'm going on right now, being an artist, like, be a beginner in, like, at the time I think I was just dabbling with the digital arts. I'm expanding my knowledge and all of that, and just learning from each one of them and connecting on a very human level. Like, there are days when we talked about practical art tips and things, resources. And there were days when we opened our heart to each other's and we became closer and we became friends. And it takes the willingness to be open from all people in the space to kind of like build that bond together. And that's what you were talking about, where there are some people that I'm very, very close to, and like we hang out most of the time. And I haven't been hanging out with them lately a lot because I've been preparing for my next journey, but I will be hanging out with a lot of them soon enough on my travel journey, because not everyone is in the same area that I'm in. So the people in New York and New Jersey, we've met periodically, and it's just a beautiful merge of souls, because something about online culture, meeting people from online is different from meeting people, be it at work or school. Because when you go to school, you're meeting people in your area. When you go to work, you're meeting people that just there to kind of like for work. But when online culture, you meet people that you connect with. There's something that connects you on a different level, It's not because circumstances or demographics or anything. It's interest, actually. Like, you're meeting people that have same interests in life, same mission, same message, like similar messaging, similar everything, similar hearts, similar direction in life. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why they became some of the closest friends. That's why we are close, because literally that's the reason. Like, it's the similar interests and aligning together, finding each other. And we happen to be in this similar, like the same state. So that's why we meet a lot. And yeah, that's where the journey started. And that's the Clubhouse journey.
Yeah, I love how you talk about this idea of connecting with people based on interest, and also just like how when you get to know people online, like you have a strong foundation in who they are before you actually meet them. So there's just so much more of a connection you have if you meet someone, or if you frequently interact with someone online. Like there's so many people on my Twitter account that I've had Zoom calls with or coach and have like really gotten to know. And sometimes like you think about kind of like their online presence, and it's just something that I feel like when you get to know someone, it really enhances their online presence for you. Like you get to know about like what that tweet means to them and in a deeper sense, and it's just so beautiful. And I hope every time someone meets me, they feel like it enhances the way I tweet, and it enhances my online presence to them, and that they just find more depth and beauty in it. So yeah, I think a lot of people have this misconception that online is kind of like this anonymous place where people aren't who they say they are, and people are deceptive and polarizing. And I think it's important to recognize that that is possible and that is in certain areas. But specifically for the writers out there, if you're in the writing community, a lot of people are who they say they are because they're publishing books under their name, and they have LinkedIn accounts that are where they market their books, and they also do giveaways, and like part of kind of like showing up and marketing is being who you are. And I think a lot of people, for people, that's kind of counterculture to what we've been told about online, and kind of like just the dangers of like the online world. But when you're growing in a community, it is a different sense. And when you are connecting based on interest, you do get to know someone a lot faster than you normally would. And obviously, I think a lot of the times you really meet your soul family, because when you connect on something that really lights your soul on fire and someone else is the same way, that's just such a stronger bond. So whether that's art or writing, or specifically if it's like a certain kind of writing, it's just so beautiful. And I would just encourage people to remember that on the other side of a tweet is a real person, and someone who has their whole life's journey with them reading your tweet. And I think I don't want this to be something that adds pressure. Like you try to like you try to like have the perfect tweet like based on like anyone. It's that's not what it's about. It's really just like this reminder that how we present ourselves and what we show up as has an impact in someone else's life and someone else's world. And even if they scroll past it, like it still makes a difference. Like you can kind of like read something and not interact with it, and still it could like brighten your day. And things like that. So this idea of like intentionality, and again, you don't have to kind of like go to Twitter being like, oh my God, I want to find my soul family. Like you can like absolutely just say, the part that I mean about like intention is that you try to minimize harm to people. So you tweet things that people can connect with, that make other people feel less alone, that are what lights you on fire, and things that excite you. And it's not so much about this idea that we tweet to air and that no one's ever going to see our tweets, because that's just not true. So yeah, I'd love to kind of like now thinking about Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is an audio platform, and it's just an app where you can go to certain rooms based on interests or topic, and you can
Hmm.
have an audio chat with people. So the reason I thought this was so relevant is because that's also what Twitter Spaces, it's also what it's for. And Twitter Spaces is this audio app that you can kind of like go to a space and you can click on it, and on desktop you don't have the same features, so on mobile you could actually like go on stage, you can raise your hand, you can speak with your microphone, and it's just a great place to kind of like get a message across, to reach people in a more intimate way, and to get to know people, because you could tweet back and forth to people and it is revealing, like you do get to know what someone's personality is like. But at the same time, audio, it's so much more fast paced, it's so much more integrative, and it's so much more intimate. So I'd love to hear kind of like what's your process. I know you've been to Twitter Spaces and you have so much confidence, you'll just raise your hand to go on stage. Something I don't do. I'm very shy. So I really have to be like hosting this space to even like unmute my microphone. But yeah, I'd love to hear how you have the confidence to go on stage and kind of like your thought process behind it that allows you to have that confidence, and just any like kind of like technical hacks or tricks to kind of like get to know people on Twitter Spaces.
Absolutely. So, first of all, it's not confidence. I don't know if it's confidence. It's more like I don't go to spaces that are about finance, for example, and raise my hand. I don't go to spaces about architect and raise my hand because I'm not, it's not the field that I'm interested in. So it's not about confidence, it's more about I go into spaces that I'm genuinely interested in a conversation. So that's hack number one. Go to spaces that you're genuinely interested in either listening, or you have people that, now you're not going to know anybody. If you're new to Twitter and Twitter spaces, you're not going to know a lot of people. So this is what I'm saying right now is not going to apply in the beginning, but I go to spaces, for example, that I see the names and I'm like, oh, I know this person, that person. I know how they like, how they speak, what they're interested in. So I know that that's going to be a good space. If these people are in this space, I'm going to go into it. Now that could be later for you, but go into a space that you're really interested in the topic and listen for a little bit. Don't raise your hand right away. I never raise my hand like from the get-go. I want to feel the room. Like it's kind of like you're walking into a party and you're feeling the room. Is this my vibe? Is this a conversation I want to be part of? And sometimes it's not, and it's okay to leave quietly. You could go to another space. That's completely fine. You don't feel pressure to be part of every conversation out there. Sometimes the topic is right, but the people are not speaking the same language. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about English and French and like all of that. I'm talking about like the language, the type of style of speaking. So that happens too, completely fine. But let's say now you go in a space and you like the topic and you like the people who are talking, and you either want to add your piece of mind to the conversation or you want to ask a question, even if you have nothing to say. Honestly, sometimes I've done that. Sometimes I just love the vibe of the room and I just want to raise my hand to be on stage and say thank you for hosting the space. And don't underestimate what the value of that simple act of gratitude of like, hey, I really don't have any questions or anything to add, but I just want to say I'm really grateful that you held this space, that you took time out of your day to host this space and to have this conversation that opened my eyes to new things or kind of like reaffirmed certain beliefs or whatever the impact that that space had on you. Because once you do that and once you show up, you raise your hand, more people are going to notice you. You're going to be on stage, you're going to be on the speakers. You unmic yourself and you say, either you ask your question or you say your piece of information or you say the thank you. That's another way of people saying like, oh my god, I that adds a more intimate level of like saying like connecting with somebody, and all of a sudden you have a new follower to new followers, and you never know what they heard you say or what you heard them say, and you're DMing each other about like certain things that you either liked or align or new collaboration that could happen, because that happened in Twitter spaces as well, where I'll be on stage and I'll say something, or I'll hear someone say something, and I'll be like, you know what, I really like this. That's such a cool idea. Can we like connect privately? And that's how collaborations happen. So um be brave. It's not about confidence. It's about, are you interested in the conversation? So it starts from there.
Yeah, awesome. And I really love that because this idea that we have to have like this like kind of like impenetrable shield of confidence everywhere we go can really kind of stop us and hold us back from even starting. And I think like especially this is something that I feel like it will really resonate with you. That idea of starting is really like kind of like the power in all of it is just kind
Yeah.
of like that first step.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'd just like to kind of like bring it back to like the technical side of Twitter Spaces. So you actually can like when you're on your mobile device, you can react. So even if you're not on stage, like you can react, you can do a heart or something you love, you can laugh if someone says something funny or a joke. You can clap if you really just want to applaud something someone said. And again, like that's a way that you can bring energy, even if you're not comfortable raising your hand to speak. And I would say even for me, like I know so many people on Twitter, and I still would I still like don't know if I'd go to a space and like speak, but I would react. And I think that's a way to kind of like bring your presence and to support people. And I love the idea how you could say, even if you don't have anything to say, you could always say thank you. And I would just remind people that saying thank you and you're welcome are probably two of the most underused things, like kind of like I love so much when I put a message out there and someone says thank you. Like it means the world to me. And I think they probably don't think like, oh yeah, like my thank you is going to mean anything, but it's like just it's just so reaffirming, and it's so powerful. And I always try to, this is something that I always like always say you're welcome. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they say you're welcome, like that like builds a connection with someone. And I think so many people just like see thank yous and they don't ever say you're welcome to it. And like when you kind of like the more you say, the more boosts you in the algorithm. So kind of like a very simple trick is to always say you're welcome to someone. And specifically, if you are out there serving people with your tweets and your presence and your message and your voice, you will get so many thank yous. Like people will thank you. And like I think like just how thank you is so meaningful, that's kind of like how, what you're welcome is the same thing. Like it's like when someone thanks you and you kind of like get that reaffirming validation, at the same time like you can give that right back to someone by saying you're welcome. And like you never know if someone needs that, like especially if they already are interacting with your message. It's just so important to say you're welcome to people. And I always have this thing where it's like, am I saying you're welcome? Like did I say you're welcome? And and I think like that's like I would say if there's one trick to growing on Twitter, specifically with this framework, it's always saying you're welcome, because you'll get so many thank yous just from like speaking your truth and putting yourself out there, and even like commenting. Like some people will thank you for commenting on their posts, specifically sometimes if they don't have a lot of followers. So like the easiest way to kind of like grow is to always say you're welcome. And it's like in that presence of gratitude, and it's like such an uplifting message. Like so many people forget to say you're welcome, and it's really a beautiful way to boost yourself in the algorithm and to connect with people and to give people back the energy they give to you, specifically in the space of gratitude.
Wow. Wow, the power of your welcome. Thank you for sharing that. Like for
You're
real.
welcome.
It's like that's how it's done, guys. That's how it's done.
Yeah, and that's the secret. You actually went all this way just to find out the very last video. The secret is to always say you're welcome, and that's how you grow. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like hundreds of people say thank you, and it's like you say you're welcome. And that's like 100 messages that literally you didn't have to do anything other than appreciate someone for being on your page. And I think a lot of people really think like, oh, they said thank you, like that's the end of the conversation. But it's such a reframe to just say you're welcome. Or even just to like send back a heart. Like I usually say like you're welcome with an emoji. But
You
yeah,
do, you truly do, like always. That is so true. Guys, even when we text message, like regular text message, this is not only Twitter, like regular text messaging. I'll be like, thank you. She's like, you're welcome. Like, did you really have to write like, you're welcome? But now that you're saying it makes sense. It makes total sense. Like, you always go out of your way. It's kind of like a habit for you now. Like, it's not only Twitter, it's in your conversations, it's in your
yeah,
texting, and your emailing, like everything. So, kind of shows like literally everywhere.
yeah. And it's conscious too, because like I think a lot of people are so used to thank you being the end of the conversation, and like, oh yeah, thanks, like it's just like the way to end it. And like I think sometimes people even forget to connect with like that actual feeling of gratitude. Like they'll just say thanks because it's like how you end a conversation. And like I think sometimes when you like say you're welcome, like people realize that like, oh wow, like I said thank you, but I wasn't feeling the feeling of
Yeah.
gratitude. And it reminds them that it's like it's actually this like cultural exchange, and that like two people are in this like beautiful space of gratitude and lifting each other up, and realizing that you can each benefit from putting yourself out there in a way that is unique to the two of you. And like I know like this is something that I first did just because I was like so overwhelmed with like the responses I would get on Twitter, and it was so meaningful to me because I would pour my heart out in like literally everything I would do. And this was like the first time I did it like publicly, so it was a lot to kind of like be like, okay, I'm not just like writing this and like people are going to read it like 10 years from now. I'm not just like working on this and then like my supervisor is going to have a meeting with me at the end of the week about it. Like it was the first thing that I actually got real-time feedback. So like it started with like just like this deep sense of gratitude that people actually like were reading what I put out there. Because I think this a lot of people will kind of like connect with this, is that sometimes we do things and we do it kind of like with this like, okay, like someone's gonna like interact with this later on, and like
Mm,
sometimes the time never comes. And on
mm.
Twitter, like you really do get that real-time feedback. Like you put something out there, someone will respond to it. And it's like a beautiful thing. Like it's definitely a beautiful thing, specifically when your in intention is to serve people, because you need to get that feedback of people saying thank you to know that you're actually serving them.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the secret.
Beautiful.
Last
Beautiful.
video, the last section, the secret comes out. Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're
Everyone, just a
welcome.
reminder. Yeah, yes. It touched
I've
my
been
heart.
waiting to say it.
Yeah, it touched my heart. So yeah, just a reminder that it's real people, and that they're worthy of being recognized for being there. So
And
have a
thank
good
you for
day,
hosting
everyone.
me.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome, dear.